Good morning and welcome to Bitesize Edge. So this morning on a very beautiful day, I keep looking out the window and thinking it's so beautifully sunny, I have the pleasure of talking to Zoe Reid. Now Zoe, when I asked her how she would like me to introduce her, quite simply as a facilitator, a mum and a wife. So good morning Zoe, how are you?
Good morning. I'm very well, thank you. I've also in beautiful sunshine and got up and did my run this morning.
Oh, well done.
Well, a walk run. I'll say a walk run.
So you know what? It doesn't matter what you're doing, just getting out and being out in the fresh air at the moment just feels like a luxury, doesn't it?
It does. It makes you. It just sets me up for the day. I'm definitely a morning exerciser.
Yeah, no, I'm exactly the same. I was out for a run this morning as soon as we'd done our morning motivation on our Facebook Live at 7:30. I was donning my trainers and out the door for a half an hour, just in the fresh air and just enjoying the peace, because it's so silent at the moment. I don't know whether you've noticed that.
It is silent. It is, but you can just hear the birds and
it's
gorgeous. It's really
it's so
nice
different
time to go out. Yeah.
It is. It's a perfect time to go out.
But then it's quite eerie sometimes too, because you think, because why is it silent? So it's good to go out. It's strange, isn't it? It's that that struggle of out enjoying it, but then you know that there's so many people that can't. So it's but it's good to, you've got to go out and stay positive.
Absolutely. So for those of you who are listening, and potentially we're the other side of this, we are in the midst of, I think, day 17, day 16 of lockdown.
Yeah.
It's quite a surreal place to be, but so far we're still able and allowed to be out and about for our 1 hour of exercise a day. And like you, Zoe, grabbing hold of that with both hands and just feeling very grateful for it, because as you said, there are some that are not in such a fortunate position. So we've got to be mindful and grateful for what we have. So slightly off piece there as I so welcome Zoe. Talk to me, remind me, when was it that you've done your practitioner course with Edge, haven't you? What year did you do your course?
I can even remember the month, and even it was February half term 2016.
You can even remember the month. I love it. Why do you think you remember the month?
Well, I know, because actually at the time I was working for an educational charity called ASDAN, and it was Julie Wilson, the fabulous Julie Wilson, who said to me, you really need to do this. And half term was coming up, and I thought, this has got to be a sign, because working in education, you have to stick really to holidays within the school times, and I thought, it's a sign.
It's a sign.
And it just works perfectly. So it was February half term 2016.
And tell me, so obviously you said the fabulous Julie Wilson, and if you don't know Julie Wilson, Julie's been on her whole journey with Edge, and actually I would now say she's a very, very good friend of mine and of Pip's. Fabulous lady. So what was it after that conversation with Julie that you went, okay, it's a sign, I've got a week off, I'm not expected to be anywhere, that you just went, right, I'm going to do this? Because it's a bit, it's a big financial input. And if you've not, heard of NLP or done much with NLP before, it might for some feel like quite a big risk.
Well, it did feel quite a big risk.
Yeah.
I mean, at the time as well, I had both the children at home, and of course there's always things to pay for, and school trips and everything else. And so that sort of was I suppose for me it was can I really justify spending that money on self-development? But I've always been a really big sort of advocate of learning and development in general. So my background is training and learning and development and training and coaching, and I suppose I've always tried to develop myself too, because I want to practice what I preach.
Yeah.
But mostly in the past it's been qualifications which I can justify because it will open up career opportunities, or so this in a way seemed quite self-indulgent, but I I'd heard, I'd done an open university module in 2008, Introduction to Psychology. So I was aware of NLP, not too much, but I had heard about NLP. And I think it was also just the change in Julie. She just seemed more confident, calmer, sort of self-assured, greater sense of self. And I just thought, well, actually it does complement what I'm doing, and actually I need to be very self-aware. And I was aware of certain feelings that I had, or sort of thoughts that I would have, or attitudes that I had, but didn't really understand where they came from. So I just thought, it's a good time, and as I say, it was a sign, because it all just sort of fell into place. And just thought, I'll sign up for it. And I'm really glad I did, because it's probably the best 5 days development I've had, and it's been really worthwhile. So
that's always fabulous.
Good decision.
And it's you said it a couple of times that it was a sign. You had that week off, you had that time, and that conflict, can't there, between, oh, this is something for me, and you use the word self-indulgent, and it, the financial implication, the time as well is a big factor. You said you had your 2 kids living at home in that time, and it can really feel like a juggle. So I'm really glad that, from knowing somebody who'd done, the practitioner course, and you saw for yourself the impact that had, and then hopefully for you, as you said, it was some of the best training, which is great, that you were then able to see how that impacted you. I mean, how did it, after the week of training, and then you kind of walk back into your real world, what was the impact of those days with Edge?
I always remember Pip saying during the intro that it could take a while to see the benefits. And it did. I think it probably took, there was definitely an initial impact, because 2 people actually said to me I think it was the Saturday evening, my husband actually said to me, God, you just have such a sense of peace around you. He said, you're glowing.
Wow.
Which was, I was just like blown away. And I thought, and I just felt it was really, because for people that have done the week, it's very intense, and you're fully immersed in this bubble, and it is intense. And I think at the time, he went operating out of the Tring. Is it Tring that you're operating from?
We are now, yeah.
So I travelled down to Milton Keynes, which is a good hour for me.
Was it Horwood House at the time? Was it Horwood House?
I think so. I just remember it was a very pretty setting. So it was in the countryside, and it was like an old manor house.
Yes, I think it was.
Yes,
yeah.
And it was lovely. So you sort of felt fully removed from life, because you were out of the hustle and bustle. Plus, I was making that physical journey every day. But so that even that travel time on top of the quite intense sort of day that we would have. So I did feel that really sort of emotionally and physically exhausted by the end, but I did feel this sense of calm. But for somebody else to actually notice that was an immediate impact. And then of course I did sort of wax lyrical about it for a long time, but I think it was over time, and it didn't really sort of hit me in the face constantly, but it's just little things now. So I am far more mindful of language I use. I mean, actually, saying that, one of the very first things I did do was just go back and look at things that I was watching, TV programs, films, Facebook, all just the impact of that really hammered home to me, the impact of what we see and feel and touch, and hear. And so I made a conscious decision that there was a lot of things that I was reading and watching that I just didn't think were beneficial. So that was quite immediate as well. But I think long term it's been just I am more self-aware, so my behavior has changed, but I understand why I behaved in that sense. But I also apply that to work. So whereas before, if people's behavior towards me I might be quite offended by it, or I'd think, oh, well, that's rude, or I'd be hurt by it. I do have the capacity now to maybe sort of think, well, why are they behaving like that? And it softens the impact, so I can sort of walk away without feeling so injured sometimes.
That's a really powerful one, I think. And I'm glad you kind of touched on that. It's that choice of behavior that people have, and also recognizing that it's not us. We don't, we are not responsible for somebody else's choice of behavior. But what we often do, and it's very much human nature, is we take that on board. And it's a really powerful place when we can go, okay, so that's yours and this is mine, and I'm choosing to do something quite different with your behavior. I'm not going to allow it to affect me, which can be just a massive shift in thought and in our own behavior. And that's a really powerful tool. It's also, it is interesting from the point of view when people say, what was the impacts of the NLP course? And a lot of people, like you, Zoe, say, well, do you know what? It was a very gradual and almost an unconscious process of, this is where I am now, and there are those subtle shifts and changes, and all for the positive. But as we always say to people who come and do the work with us, it's not the panacea of everything. You're not going to suddenly fly out the window with your Wonder Woman pants on, and nothing is ever going to harm you or hurt you again, and you're never going to feel angry, and you're never going to feel these things, because that's not right. That's not who we are. But it's powerful to know that we are in control of how we choose to deal with other people's behaviour, I guess.
Yeah. And I reframe a lot too as well. Yeah. So I try to be, everything has a positive angle.
Yeah.
And especially, and I use that a lot with the children initially, when they come in and everything's rubbish, and then that was something that I introduced quite early on as well. But it was we moved a couple of years ago. So in 2016, we were renting property, and our dream was to get back into our own house. And I was also quite. I've been in my current job for a long time, and although I still work for them actually as a freelancer, so that shows how much I believe in the charity and their values and causes. But at the time, I was becoming very frustrated because I wanted to progress, but there was no progression, and I didn't really know what to do, and I was toying with the idea of going self-employed, but we were renting somewhere, and my husband's self-employed, so I was thinking I need to stay here because we need the mortgage. So I remember when we wrote the letter of what we wanted to achieve, that you then send back to us sort of several months later.
Yeah.
And actually, at the time of writing that, things like working for myself, feeling content, owning our own home were really just seemed so far off in the future, and real sort of aspiration still. And when we moved a couple of years ago, so that would have been 2 years after attending, we had to put quite a lot of bits and pieces in storage, and we're just doing a loft conversion at the moment. And we pulled some boxes out that we hadn't seen since we'd moved, and I found my letter. And wow. to actually read that, and it said, I want to be in my own house, and I am.
Oh, that's
I want to work for myself, and I do. And it was quite mind-blowing to think in that 4 years when it felt so distant that actually
you're doing it.
They've both happened, and sort of quite a while ago. So that was really powerful,
The power of visualization. And you shared with me, Zoe, we tried and failed to do this podcast a couple of days ago due to my joys of living rurally and having really poor internet connection at times. But you had mentioned that one of the things that you were going to focus on this week and use your time in lockdown was to do a vision board or a visualization board.
Yeah.
How have you got on with that?
Really well. So it's there, and it's something visual for me to look at, because I do set myself goals. But I think I'd watched the
The morning motivation with Pip.
Yeah, I think it was Tuesday when Pip was talking about visualization.
Yeah.
And realised that I do have these goals, but I don't, as a rule, tend to visualise them, or it's just I want to do this. So that has been powerful. Although ironically, when I turned up this morning from my run, a delivery of gin had been made.
That's
made at the weekend in time for Easter. So like Tuesday, I was like, yes, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to be cleanly, and I'm not going to drink alcohol, and blah, 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 blah. And then it's like, how ironic, come back from my run.
It's a test. It's
on the doorstep. Yeah, it's another sign. It's a sign.
It's a sign that you've got to drink gin this week. Monday's a new day. You can start Monday. Everything.
You can start Monday. Yeah, but it does really help, as you say, just to focus. And I think to have some visual that I just that I can have a look and see. Right, no, that's where I'm aiming, and I think also just how will I feel when I've done that. So again, it's that sense of achievement that I've made a commitment and that I've reached a goal.
Yeah,
and to have a focus.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting, as I'm talking to you now, I'm recording this from home in our little snug area, which has actually now become Pip's office. But I'm looking up on the wall, and in here are our vision boards. And it is really interesting, because I thought, I wonder how much of this is going to be different now that we're in lockdown and there's certain things that I don't have control over. And there's nothing on here apart from the half marathon that was cancelled that I cannot achieve, still remaining where I am, as in physically where I am, which is in lockdown. And that's a really good feeling, and it's really good to remind myself of that. So I thank you for reminding me about vision boards when we spoke on Tuesday. And I think I might be tweaking mine and maybe things on for the next few months, which might be things such as get through all of the books that remain sitting on your bookshelf and have for the last however many years, and taking time out to do things like that. And Zoe, you mentioned running, and you're going out and doing that. Are there any other things that in this kind of lockdown you've discovered, talents or skills that you go, oh, I forgot about that? Or not yet?
Not that, I suppose, not discovered, but I'm definitely enjoying having it's the time it's created, isn't it? That's the thing. So I mentioned a little earlier, we're working towards converting the loft. So that's been plastered. So things like, the painting of that would have sat in that state for months, because work would have had the summer tends to be one of my busiest periods, so it wouldn't have been a priority. So just having the time for that. I'm also working towards a HR qualification.
Oh wow!
So that was being juggled, along with work. So all of a sudden, I have basically probably 3 or 4 months where I can study like a full-time student.
That's brilliant. So there are some real positives.
So that's a real positive. I've started reading quite a lot more, because I do tend to read, but it's more work orientated. So I'm reading for pleasure, which has been really good. I've been looking at some self-development bits and pieces. So webinars I've been taking. There's lots of free webinars at the moment, which is fantastic. So I've been continuing the self-development, and just making sure that the day has a focus and it's productive.
And that's key, isn't it? Just having that purpose through your day. I know I've struggled with that a little bit, but you're absolutely right. There's so much that's free at the moment out there. Webinars and all sorts of bits and pieces. It's quite phenomenal, I think, what people are offering.
Yeah.
And it is about, grabbing hold of that, because there's no excuses. And I'm talking to myself when I say but there are no excuses, and, about being bigger than those excuses. So that's a fabulous point. And how fabulous that you're doing your HR and you've got the time now to actually spend.
I know. Well, there was meant to be 2 exams in April, which were postponed.
Yeah.
Until September, so that will allow for more revision. But then there's modules that we're doing too. So yes, it's just again, it's a sign.
It's a sign.
It's a sign.
And we keep those signs.
But no excuses for failure now, because I've had plenty of time for revision.
Loads of time for revision. Loads of time.
Yeah. So it's I'm hoping that will well, we'll have to wait and see, won't we? So September probably. So I've got several months of preparation.
That's fabulous. Get it on the vision board. Get it on
the vision board. Yeah, standing there with my certificate at the end.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, good luck with that, Zoe, and the loft conversion, and the painting, and the running,
and not drinking gin.
Yay. Well, you know, as I said, everything starts on Monday. So enjoy it. Have a very happy Easter. Thank you for talking to me this morning. It's been a pleasure.
You're very welcome. Thank you for inviting me.
You are very, very welcome. So go off and enjoy the rest of your day in the sun.
And you, and tweak that vision board.
Yes, I'm looking at it now. I'm absolutely going to. All right. Take care, Zoe.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.